In this video, we're going to cover what it costs to reload a box of ammunition, a round of ammunition, 1,000 rounds of ammunition. We're going to calculate how many rounds you need to load to break even on your reloading equipment and supplies investment. And we're going to talk about which cartridges you can reload to save the most money. Gavin here from ultimatereloader.com. This is a question I get all the time. Does it make sense to invest in reloading equipment with supplies that are difficult to find? Am I going to make back my money on my reloading investment? We're going to answer those questions in this video. And it turns out, back in 2009, I wrote some HTML to calculate what the costs are to reload your own ammunition. That is the reloading costs calculator. You're going to find that under tools at ultimatereloader.com. I just made some updates to this tool, and we're going to use this tool kind of as the foundation to evaluate each of the scenarios in this video. In 2009, approximate cost to reload 9mm Parabellum would be about 13.7 cents per round. I just updated with current component pricing. It's now 25.3 cents. So it's about double to reload ammunition compared to what it would have been back in 2009 when I wrote the tool and I input the defaults for the different component costs. This assumes that we're recycling our brass. This does not include any brass cost whatsoever. So that assumes that you're going to do range pickup, that you're going to have previously fired ammo, all of that, right? So while reloading costs have gone up, ammunition costs have gone up as well. And in this video, we're going to kind of evaluate how those net out. Okay, so the reloading setups, this could be anything. We could get some really super cheap reloading gear, or we could go all the way up to an auto-driven Mark 7 Apex 10, right? I tried to pick a couple different setups here that we're going to align to someone that's more simply minded but wants quality gear, you know, like a single stage or a turret type setup. And then someone that's going to load ammunition in bulk. Really, that's where the savings are, right? I guess we'll get to that. So at Mid-South Shooter Supply, we're going to look at all the pricing here as of the filming of this video in early 2024. Mid-South Shooter Supply is a great retailing outfit to deal with. They're our exclusive retailer for mainstay of reloading equipment and components, right? And on the simple setup side, I picked a more cheap kit from Lyman and a more fully featured basic kit from Lyman with a turret press and a whole bunch of equipment and supplies. That ranges between $259.99 and $629.99, right? So I thought we're going to go somewhere in the middle, but we're going to also add some of the other things that we're going to need that aren't included in kits. Things like specific shell holders, reloading dies, maybe other extras that you're going to need. So I figured if you want to get into reloading and you want quality gear like Lyman gear and you're going to buy it from Mid-South Shooter Supply, you can get into a decent reloading setup that's fairly basic for about $600. Okay, and then over on the progressive side, I figured what is a quality but value-minded progressive reloading press that you can crank out a bunch of ammo. Not any extras like a case feeder, just a good basic 5-station reloading press. So right now, Mid-South has the Hornady Lock and Load AAP for $559. It's normally $599. And I was also looking at die sets. Die sets range between about $60 and $100 for Hornady dies. The shell plate that you're going to need for each caliber changeover is going to be $42.79 today. Now, some of those can be double duty, right? Like you might find a shell plate that's going to work for 45 ACP, and it's also going to work for your 308 case rim family of cartridges. Hornady specifically has a number 45 shell plate for 45 ACP, but in a lot of reloading setups, the 45 ACP and 308 case rim family use the same number shell plate. So it really depends on a lot of different factors how much you're going to spend. How many cartridges are you reloading? Are there any crossover things like this shell plate that can be shared between the two? How ornate do you want to get with your case cleaning setup, right? You can do ultrasonic, you can wet tumble, you can dry tumble. Bunch of different options, and I have two different articles on ultimatereloader.com. What you need to load pistol ammunition and what you need to load rifle ammunition. That has complete lists, right? I'm estimating this simple progressive setup at about $1,200. So it's about twice the spend. Things are generally more complicated and more expensive caliber changeover kits, the shell plates, and so on and so forth. So that's our simplified model. Again, you could go wild. You could spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. You could also go bare bones, bottom of the bucket, super cheap, and spend way less than $600 to get into reloading. But I think these are good, realistic numbers and would give you a setup that would be really workable and a good quality setup. Okay, what we also need to account for is the resale value. So let's say you got into reloading and you reloaded a whole bunch of rounds of ammunition and then you decided to stop reloading. Well, all of that equipment and all of the supplies and components have a resale value. I'm going to call that 50%. So this is something that we're going to account for, is your total investment is kind of the total investment that you made initially minus the depreciation. We're going to call that depreciation 50%. Okay, so you're sitting on 50% of what you paid, right? And we're going to either account for that or we're not going to account for that, depending on what angle we're looking at in terms of evaluating this cost to you personally. Okay, so we're going to go through a number of cases. The first case would be the high volume case. This is commodity ammo, 9mm parabellum. You can see with the reloading cost calculator there, we have Federal small rifle primers. We have Barry's 9mm 124 grain hollow-based round nose bullets with the thick plating. We're using Barry's bullets here across the board because to me they represent a really good value. We want to keep costs down when we're evaluating saving money with reloading, but we don't want to compromise quality or go off in a direction that's not going to be equivalent to typical factory ammunition. Hence not using hard cast lead bullets with lubrication that burns and makes a mess, and people don't typically shoot, hard cast lead factory ammo until you get to some of the specialty situations like 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum and so on and so forth. We're not going to account for that here. So across the board here, we're using equipment and supplies, everything from Mid-South Shooter Supply. I got current pricing on all of that today. Just this morning when I was preparing to film this video, we're using Barry's plated bullets across the board because of the value and quality equation there. Okay, and we're using quality gear as well. Okay, so Federal small pistol primers, Barry's 124 plated bullets, and we're using Hodgdon CFE-Pistol, Hodgdon powders across the board as well, because that's typically what we use. Okay, so accounting for all of those costs, 9mm is going to cost us 25.2 cents a round to reload. And the factory ammunition, I also got factory ammunition pricing this morning, preparing for this video from Mid-South Shooter Supply, is going to be 47 cents per round. So the reloads are going to cost us $251.97 per thousand, and factory ammunition would cost $467 per thousand. So what does this mean to break even on our investment? A simple setup is going to get us a break even at 2,783 rounds. A simple setup, if we sold the gear, in other words, that value that we're sitting on, is breaking even at 1,391 rounds. The progressive setup with no resale would be 5,565 rounds. Believe it or not, if people with progressive reloading presses can reload this kind of ammunition in a hurry. And if you're a competitive shooter, you're going to go through that ammunition in a hurry. Progressive setup with resale value, break even would be at 2,783 rounds. So, does it make sense to load 9mm parabellum if you're shooting these kinds of quantities over, say, a few years, 5 years? Absolutely. Okay, case number 2. This is our sort of commodity rifle scenario, 223 Remington. We've got CFE 223 powder. We've got Federal small rifle primers, number 205. We use a bunch of those, and we're using Barry's 55 grain FMJ bullets. So this is the only FMJ bullet that we've got because plated 223 is not a thing. So actually that gives us two different types of bullet construction scenarios to evaluate here. Plated for everything else, and FMJ for 223. And this is kind of your classic round, your 55 FMJ round. So plugging it into the reloading cost calculator, reloads come out at 42.2 cents a round. In factory ammunition, I used the Winchester Target and Practice 223 55 FMJ, comes out at 65 cents a round. So reloads are $422.31 per thousand, and factory ammunition would be $649.50 per thousand. So with a simple setup and no resale, we break even at 2,632 rounds. If we do account for the resale, we break even at 1,316 rounds. The progressive setup with no resale, 5,263 rounds for break even, and with the resale accounted for 2,632 rounds. So if we look at 223 and we look at 9mm, we're talking pretty similar break-even numbers. But it gets better when you get into more specialized ammunition scenarios. Okay, I started reloading to save money with 44 Magnum. I got a 44 Magnum for hiking carry. I decided I was gonna go to the range every week to practice because I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to be prepared if I was charged by a bear, right? And it made sense then, and it definitely makes sense now. We've got Hodgdon H110 powder. It's a great 44 mag powder. Winchester large pistol primers. These are the type that can be used for Magnum and non-Magnum loads. And then we've got Barry's 44 caliber, 240 grain flat point bullets. Okay, plugging it into the reloading cost calculator, we get 47 cents a round for our reloads. And for factory ammunition, we're at $1.20 a round. $469.83 per thousand for reloads and $1,203.60 per thousand. Now, if you spend the money on 44 mag like defensive ammo, like, you know, they come in the smaller packages like 20 rounds, it goes way, way up from there. This is kind of more like plinking ammo, the factory ammo that we're comparing here. So it's a pretty equivalent comparison. And as you can see, it's almost a third the cost to reload. This is kind of amazing. So now the break-even costs look even more favorable, right? The simple setup with no resale, 818 rounds to break even. The simple setup with resale, 409 rounds to break even. I don't want to do it anymore. I sold it to a friend. Well, 409 rounds later, you know, you broke even. That's pretty amazing. The progressive setup with no resale, 1,635 rounds to break even, and the progressive setup with resale, 818 rounds for break even. So did I break even with 44 Magnum? I did it in a hurry because I started with a really, really cheap, like $120 setup, and I added Lemon Pledge that I stole from my wife upstairs, brought it down to the garage. I was reloading on a budget, having fun. Now, my fun spiraled out of control. I created Ultimate Reloader. Now I've got all these presses and just, it's totally ridiculous. So if you bought a setup like I have, you would lose mega money. But if you started a successful YouTube channel, it could be profitable for you, right? Okay, so 44 Magnum, a great case for reloading. Now, 30-30 Winchester. Kyle on our team, that was the first cartridge he reloaded, I believe. And, you know, it looks pretty similar to 44 mag, honestly. Here we've got Federal Large Rifle Primers, number 210. We've got Hodgdon Lever Evolution powder, which is a great powder for 30-30. And then we've got these 30 caliber, 150 grain plated bullets from Barry's. These things are so cool. Now, this is a regular supersonic load that we're talking about here, but we reloaded subsonic rounds for 30-30 with these Barry's 150s, and they are absolutely fun to shoot. A total team favorite. Get a nice can on your lever gun, and all you can hear is the plinking of the steel and the lever action cycling. Really, really good stuff. So plugging it into the reloading cost calculator, we have 44 cents a round for the reloads, $1.25 a round for the factory ammunition. Not cheap. So $439.61 for 1,000 reloaded and $1,249.50 for 1,000 factory. And again, I picked a roughly equivalent 150 grain box of factory ammunition from Mid-South to do the comparison there. So simple setup with no resale, 741 rounds to break even. Simple setup with resale, 370 rounds to break even. Some progressive setup, no resale, 1,482 rounds. We've loaded 30-30 on the progressive. It is awesome to load there. And then progressive setup with resale, 741 rounds to break even. So, does it make sense to reload 30-30 Winchester? Absolutely. Okay, case number 5, 300 Blackout Subsonic. You can save money reloading 300 Blackout standard, but subsonic ammo just seems to be really, really expensive. And that kind of makes sense because the projectiles are so heavy, right? These are, we're using 220 grain projectiles here for our comparison. So we've got the Barry's 220 grain plated projectile, which is optimized for 300 Blackout subsonic. We've used these in other scenarios like 308 subsonic, 7.62x39 subsonic. Bullet is not sized optimally, but it works great for plinking and stuff in the 7.62x39. Federal small rifle primers and Hodgdon H110. If we're going subsonic, Hodgdon H110 seems to work really good. If we're going supersonic, CFE-BLK has given us great performance. So the reloads are 41.5 cents per round. And the factory is $1.30 a round. So that nets to $415.38 for 1,000 reloaded and $1299.50 for 1,000 factory. Rounds reloaded to break even. Simple setup, no resale, $679. Simple setup with resale, 339 rounds. Progressive setup, no resale, 1,357 rounds. Progressive setup with resale, 679 rounds. Pretty amazing. It totally makes sense to reload 300 Blackout subsonic, period, especially with Barry's 220 grain bullets that are available. Okay, so let's see how these rank against each other in terms of rounds reloaded to break even. The winner is 300 Blackout subsonic. I'm just going to go over the numbers without resale. 1,357. 30 Winchester is right behind that. 1,482 without resale for the medium setup. 44 Magnum, 1,635, no resale medium setup. 223 Remington, we jump up to 5,263 medium setup, no resale. And 9mm takes the longest at 5,565 medium setup, no resale. So it's not gonna likely be one or the other. Not a whole lot of people buy reloading equipment and only load 9mm parabellum. If you're a competitive shooter, you might do that, right? But most people are gonna have a mix of say 9mm and 6.5 Creedmoor, or 30-30 Winchester and 44 Magnum, for instance. That might be a more traditionally minded person, right? So it really depends on how much shooting and reloading you plan to do, right? If it's a combination of factors here, or if you can buy secondhand equipment and get that 50% strike price, all the better, right? This is buying things brand new, does not account for shipping. There's some other factors there, but also the prices are very approximate. You have a lot of wiggle room to go up and down within each of those simple and medium brackets for equipment, supplies, and components. Okay, so conclusions. First, you can save money reloading. I think we all know that. And it's also easy to just buy excessive equipment and supplies and gear and save less, I'll say. The cartridge being reloaded has a huge effect on the break-even round count for your investment. The more specialized the ammo is, the less rounds you're gonna need to break even on your investment in general. The more mainstream your ammo is, the more you're likely to shoot, right? Guys shoot a lot of 9 and a lot of 223, and those are gonna take a lot of rounds to break even on your investment, but you're likely to be shooting more of those rounds, right? Of course, you can go wild on expensive equipment, especially if you watch this channel. We've got everything from budget reloading to the super high-end stuff. We cover it all here. If you're specifically interested in the budget stuff, we have a budget shooting and reloading playlist right here on YouTube that you're gonna wanna check out. And that just outlines videos that are all about, back to basics, saving money, cost effectiveness, and so on and so forth. And then finally, there are more reasons than just the economics to reload ammunition. It's about tuning the ammo, right? Load development for precision rifle, for instance, is all about finding an optimal load, consistent velocities, small groups, right? Ammo that's gonna perform optimally and is gonna perform better than factory ammunition offerings, right? Factory ammunition is getting better and better and better, but you'll always have the advantage with your reloads of being able to optimize bullet seating depth and charge weight and components and so on and so forth. It's also fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really fun for me to be able to build my own ammo build my own rifles and then go and shoot them at range and hit a target at a mile or whatever it happens to be. Really, really satisfying and really gratifying. The other thing that we didn't account for here is part of the cost equation is your time. If you don't have a lot of time, it's better to spend more money. If you have a lot of time, you might even want to stretch out your components. You might want to spend as much time as you can enjoying every round of reloaded ammo, right? Retired guys, that can be the case for those guys. They want to enjoy the whole process and they're not in a hurry, right? That's where the economics might be even more important. You're on a pension, whatever. So there's a lot of factors to consider. I'd like to know a couple things. Drop a comment and we can discuss these things. Okay, so first, did you find this helpful? Second, what have you experienced in your own world of reloading? Have you been able to achieve savings? Have you broken even on your investment? Do you not even care? Drop a comment and let me know. Don't forget that we've got the reloading cost calculator that you can use to help evaluate your situation, your spend on equipment and components, and the rounds that you're reloading, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much to Hodgdon and Mid-South Shooter Supply and Barry's Plated Bullets for the support that they give the channel. And we've done a ton of stories that you can check out on these different components and have a lot of fun with this reloading, right? And hopefully save a little bit of money. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. If you're interested in custom rifles like what we build here on the channel or gunsmithing services, you're going to want to go to rifles.ultimatereloader.com and get on the wait list. If you want to learn lucrative gunsmithing like what I show here on the channel, including building custom rifles and Cerakote plus a whole bunch more, you're going to want to check out the Colorado School of Trades, schooloftrades.edu. Thanks again for watching.